Before we get started in the Dharma talk, please join me in invoking the Buddha's name 3 times. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Was going to finish the last part of the right mindfulness of the Eightfold Path and speak a little bit about Vesak that's coming up next Sunday. However, we have an unfortunate great loss to our little Sangha family. We had, most of you should know Leon Bryant. He's one of our oldest dedicated members who unfortunately passed this past Monday. Many of you may remember him as being probably the first person to greet you at the temple. He was always very dedicated member to our Sangha. He's been here as long as I've been here. I've been here since 2012, so he's my longest Dharma brother. Has given many cuts and bruises and a couple of fractures to the temple over the years. As helpful as he was also very clumsy. Would tease him about that quite often, but never missed an opportunity to help anybody who I've ever asked. Never missed an opportunity to participate in anything or to not give a helping hand when needed. So he will be dearly missed, and it will be much quieter around here without him. So we have, per Buddhist tradition, we will be chanting and praying for him for the next 7 weeks. And so we started that on Tuesday night, this past Tuesday. And so for the next few weeks at least, we'll be chanting the same sutra we would chant on Wednesday's evening services. So that we'll be chanting the Amitabha Sutra and dedicating our merits to his fortunate rebirth in the Pure Land. So with that, Jan will be dearly missed. So I thought I would pull out a topic nobody wants to talk about, which is death. So that'll be what we'll discuss today. All right, so death. Who likes death? Nobody? All of us? Death, as unfortunate as it is one of the, at least a few truths that every human being shares, every living being shares, is the truth of death. right? And it's also one of the truths that we spend the most of our lives avoiding, because we speak quite often about our success, about the pleasures, the plans, our accomplishments in life, but we rarely stop to contemplate the reality that everything that we have, everything that we cling to, even this body of ours itself, will one day pass. And the Buddha didn't really teach us to contemplate death to make us pessimistic or feel fearful of it, but he taught it because without the understanding of death, we can't really understand life. And so most of us live as though death is something that is distant, or that's something that's going to happen to others. But from the moment that we're born, right, life and death are already being unfolded together, right? It's a two sides of the same coin, pretty much. Because every breath that enters us will also leave, right? The body changes, it's continuously changing. And our thoughts come and go, our relationships are transformed, the seasons pass, right? The entire universe is just a moment of appearing and vanishing, of coming and going, of rising and falling. And so as we meditate deeply, we start to see this more directly. We start to see this more clearly. And so when we're able to sit quietly in meditation, observe the breath, then we are able to notice something that's quite profound. That each inhale is a beginning, and each exhale is a letting go. So in this way, death is not merely an event that's waiting at the end of our life, right? Because small endings are happening continuously. The day dies into night, youth dies into age, right? Our version of ourselves, the versions of ourselves also die, so that another version of us can emerge. So our suffering doesn't come because things change, but because we resist their changing. And so we want permanence in an impermanent world, right? And we want certainty where that certainty isn't always guaranteed. It can always be found. And so we start to cling tightly to people, to our identities, to experiences, and we hold on to them as though they will last forever. But the fortunate thing about death is that it humbles all those attachments, because no wealth can bargain with death, right? No status can escape it. No possession can prevent it. But yet, within this reality of death, we emerge with some kind of extraordinary freedom of being able to let go. And so if we're able to truly accept death, then we begin to live a little bit differently, start to live a little bit more freely, a little bit more openly, because then petty conflicts are just that. They're petty and they're not that important. Our pride softens. We become more patient. We become more forgiving. We become hopefully more compassionate. And we stop wasting so much energy on clinging to things that won't last. And so death teaches us urgency, right? Not to panic about it, but out of true sincerity. And it asks us to question, right? Are we living with true awareness? Are we loving deeply? Are we speaking kindly? Are we using this precious life wisely? And when the Buddha often taught contemplation of death, he taught it because he knew that it will cut through our delusion. And we suddenly realize that life is fragile, right? And it's uncertain. And the future is the future we endlessly worry about is never guaranteed. And so we start to hopefully come to that realization and start living in the present moment, the only moment that we have true control and true experience over. And if we're able to fully arrive at this present moment, then something quite remarkable happens. Freedom starts to present and fear starts to loosen. Because fear of death often comes from the fear of losing self, losing ourself, or losing the self, right? But through our deep practice, we start to begin to see that what we call self is already a changing process, right? Thoughts change, emotions change, the body changes. There is no permanent entity to protect in the way that we once imagined ourselves to be. So this insight doesn't make life meaningless necessarily, right? It makes it sacred, because everything is temporary, so everything becomes precious, right? We can appreciate the smile of our children, smile of our loved one, right? The sound of rain, the warmth of the sun, the opportunity to practice, to be together, right? And the ability just to breathe should be something that is sacred. And so when we start to, or stop to demand permanence from life, then gratitude will just naturally arise from the things that we live through. So contemplation of death isn't meant to lead to despair or to fear or to suffering. It's meant to awaken wisdom, because death becomes a teacher that reminds us to let go, to simplify, to forgive, to awaken, to live with compassion while we still can. Because one day this body will return to the earth, right? Everything we call mine will be left behind. Our titles, our possessions, our achievements, our accomplishments, right? All will fade away, just like the footsteps fading away in the tide. And what remains is just the quality of our heart, the quality of the life that we've lived. And then you can ask yourself, did we live with kindness? Did we live to reduce suffering? Did we awaken to wisdom, right? Did we love without clinging, right? These are the things that actually matter. And so rather than fearing death, we can allow it to deepen our practice. We can let it remind us to stop postponing our lives, to stop making or stop waiting for the right time, right? To be present, to forgive, to meditate, to love, to awaken. Stop making excuses that we can do it later, right? Or do it tomorrow or next week. And this awakening to that is the moment in our practice, in the path. And as we start to reflect on this deeply, and we come to this realization that death isn't the opposite of life, right? Death is part of life. And to resist death is to resist reality. But to understand death deeply is to finally understand how to live. And we can let go that death is some kind of end that is not going to happen, right? Because we never know when the end of life will actually happen. We never know when the end of anything will actually happen. But unfortunately, we put on these excuses not to do things. We put up these excuses to practice later, or to do this later, to move later, to love later, to help later, right? To do later. We make up all these excuses, thinking that we have time, thinking that we have the opportunity to do it later. When in reality, that time, that waiting isn't guaranteed. And because it's not guaranteed, there's no guarantee of it actually happening. And in Buddhism, death isn't, we don't consider death as an end, right? Because our life is simply one form of life. This life that we currently have is just one form of life. And so death is just simply an end to one form of life and a beginning to another form of life. Right? And so though we feel discomfort or feel sadness or despair from a death, right? Knowing that it's not really the end, that this loved one that we've lost isn't truly gone, right? Yes, their body is gone, but they will always continue to live on through us, through the Sangha, through their memories, right? And if they have family or children, right, those people live on through them as well. And so we think that when someone dies, that is the end of that person. But in reality, what they've left behind is their own continuation, right? When the monastics die, when our Venerable Abbot dies, right, his body may have died, but his legacy will continue on for as long as this temple remains, right? For every future generation, though he physically may not be here, he is still here. He is the founder of our temple. He's our root teacher, right? His name lives on for as long as civilization or his memory is alive. Likewise, our memories of Leon, our memories of your lost ones will continue to live on as long as you live, as long as your children live, right? You live through your children. You live through your own parents. So though your parents may have passed, right, they're still there because you cannot be here without them, right? You're still part of those people that have passed. And as long as you're alive, they are alive. If you have children, as long as they're alive, you're still alive. And the cycle continues on and on. So there's really no end, right? And so with that continuation, do we truly die? But death is also a reminder of that urgency of life. Because again, life and how long we live isn't guaranteed. And if our goal, spiritual goal, is to awaken, that death should be that sign of urgency that we need to hurry up and awaken. Because if you're like me, I don't want to do this again, right? And so the urgency for our spiritual practice is to awaken, to do as much as we can, for as long as we can, and to get those moments of awakening so that we can end that suffering and end the cycle of birth and rebirth. But we have to have that sense of urgency. We can't put it off. We can't wait. We cannot hope for the best. Without that actual practice, without that actual diligence, without an actual work of doing, of practicing, studying, and applying, what are we doing? Because who wants to suffer? Who wants to allow dukkha to be the leading master of your life? Nobody, right? Nobody wants to suffer. Since we all have that commonality of not wanting to suffer, now the question is, what are you doing about it? The problem is that we're too comfortable with our suffering. We think, oh, I don't like my job, or I hate my job. I don't really like my significant other anymore. I don't like my friends. I don't like the place I live. Right? You're making excuses for all the suffering in your life. But because we're so comfortable with it, that we've become accustomed to that suffering. We've become lenient with it. We've just started to settle, right? Like some people settle with relationships because they fear maybe they're not good enough for anybody else, or they fear that nobody else will ever like them or love them or care for them. And so they settle with someone they don't truly care about or love. We have that same feeling of settling with our suffering. Because we're so used to that suffering. We're so used to feeling depressed or sad or anxious or confused or alone. Whatever feeling or emotion that we're feeling, because we're so used to that and we're accustomed to it, that we're just letting it be. We're just accepting it for what it is. We're accepting the suffering. Not knowing that there is a way to end that suffering, not knowing that there is a way to escape those feelings and emotions. The unfortunate part is there's actually work that needs to be done in order to let that suffering go. But it's that work that nobody wants to do. Right? That's the unfortunate part, is that humanity has become lazy when it comes to our freedom, when it comes to our liberation. We've become lazy because we have too many things in our life that's distracting. Because we're surrounded by distractions, it's causing us to become lazy. Distractions of media, social media, of entertainment, of job, family, friends. Your entire life is a distraction from the path to liberation. And we're okay with that. So now you can sit in meditation and ask yourself, why? Why am I okay with being lazy when it comes to my enlightenment? Why am I okay being comfortable and accepting my suffering? If you have an answer, feel free to answer. Because this is a legitimate question. If you are here, you're suffering. Actually, if you're born, you're suffering, regardless, right? But we can do something about the suffering. We can't do anything. We're already born, so we really can't do anything about that until we die, right? We can't do anything about aging. We can't do anything about getting sick, for the most part, right? We can't do anything about death, right? These are the fundamental laws of being alive, right? We go through all these 4 cycles of birth, sickness, aging, and death, right? Those are inevitable sufferings. We can't do anything about that. But everything else that we suffer for and because of, we have control over. So what are you doing about that? Besides complaining. Because you're all complaining. Every single one of you are complaining about life. Right? So what are you doing about it? A lot of you are doing something about it. But you're doing it on a very potentially superficial level. Right? Unfortunately, most of my, not unfortunately, most of our teachings, right, are very foundational. Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, right? But also, fortunately, most of you have been here for quite some time, and if you've been studying Buddhism for quite some time, I would hope that eventually we get to the level of learning some higher teachings, the Abhidharma, Buddhist psychology. This is where the true guts of Buddhism is held. Right? This is where this is like PhD level Buddhism, but it's also where our insight can truly be developed. And unfortunately, I won't ever have a chance during Sunday services, at least, to teaching about Abhidharma. We've talked about lots of bits and pieces of it in the past, right? The 12 links of dependent origination comes from the Abhidharma. The 10 fetters of the 10 fetters comes from the Abhidharma. Some of the higher meditation practices comes from the Abhidharma. So we've touched a lot of bits and pieces of this Abhidharma, the Buddhist psychology. But it is something I would recommend for those of you that have already surpassed some of the foundational teachings to get in touch with some of that Abhidharma. And once I'm done with Eightfold Path, I will start at least on one part of the Abhidharma, which is the 12 links of dependent origination, Chitta Samutpada. So that will come in a few weeks, but the 12 links is essentially why we are born and why we die. And to break the chain, to break any of the 12 links, is to break the cycle of birth and death. That is the root of our practice, is to break that chain. But in order to break that chain, you have to have something to break the chain with. That something to break the chain with is the practice. It's the effort that we put behind our practice. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts. I unfortunately do not have, back to Leon, and unfortunately don't have any time or dates or anything as far as a service is concerned for him. His daughter did come with family this morning for the Vietnamese service that we did a service for. She unfortunately is out of town, and so she's kind of catching up. So we don't have a date as far as the service, but for those of you that may want to attend, please let me know, and I'll try to let you know once I have any information. But otherwise, we will continue, like I said, for the next 7 weeks to pray for him. And then at the 100th day mark, and of course every year for the 1 year or yearly anniversary. Yes, ma'am.
Teacher, being new, what are the typical rituals that Buddhism allows for fasting? You mentioned the 7 weeks of chanting, but what other rituals are part of the process?
Meditating on death is one, and on impermanence. Because when we do services for the dead, it's actually more for the living than it is for the dead, right? Because the dead is dead, are dead, right? So the services are really to help remind us and the family of, like I mentioned, the preciousness of life, right? That this is a continuation of one form to another. This is a more of a celebration of this life than what's the word I'm looking for? Than an end to it, right? And so our subsequent rituals in Buddhism is really just that. It's chanting for them, for us, really, right? And to contemplate on the aspect of death and impermanence. And by doing that, death is one of the most important methods of meditation in Buddhism because it helps us to realize the impermanence of everything, right? Not just human life, but of everything else, right? And the more that we can understand death, the more that we can accept death, and then to understand it deeply, then when death does happen, it doesn't overcome us so harshly, so deeply, right? Because we know I'm sure we've all experienced, whether yourselves or others, that when death occurs, some people are just crazy, right? They become so grief-stricken, right? They're just almost crazed, right, from this loss. But we react that way because we have such an attachment, we have such a clinging to that person that we forget that though we love them deeply, that love is, though we love them deeply, that being, that person, that body is impermanent. And we are saddened and we're overcome with this grief because we wanted something that was impermanent to be permanent. We wanted to hold on to them forever. We wanted them to be alive and to be with us forever. And so when it's gone or lost, it affects us deeply because we don't have a deep understanding of impermanence. And so ritualistically, or just per practice, right? It's not about the rituals or the ceremonies or anything like that, right? These are just outwardly expressions of the practice. But inwardly, all we should be doing is to meditate and contemplate death, contemplate the impermanence of life, the impermanence of everything. That way we can truly understand it, truly appreciate it, truly love it, without having to cling to it, without having to hold on to it, without having to be so grief-stricken when death occurs. And that understanding helps us live deeply, more fully, more freely, more openly. And it helps us help others, hopefully. Good question. Any other questions?
I think we are afraid or we just like get surprised with that because a lot of things a person was doing or like in pain like he was planning to do those things are unknown to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of missing piece because until we figure out how to copy the pin and read it, like what he planning to do or things like that. Because and sometimes there's a lot of unknown good things what he was doing. He, like you said, he lives through us. He's here in our form and shape, and he's living with, but it's dilute version of him.
Mm-hmm.
Not the actual what he was doing to the community. And I think that surprises people when he's gone. Then like, okay, look, we miss him. It's not just attachment. Maybe it's attachment, but not very strong attachment. How he's serving, how he's breathing.
Right.
And he's not there.
Right.
So that thing we miss, and like we not attachment, but just that thing needs to be there. Or means until you figure out how coffee accesses his brain and replicate it after the death so that it can help the community and your family and everybody. A lot of times the family members don't know what she has planned, and especially when they don't have the will or
Right.
trust. And like, yeah, it's still all like what he had, what he was thinking.
A lot of times when we lose someone that we care for or love, or even especially those that are really close to us, right? Whether they're significant others or children, that when they die, yes, we are grieving for their loss because we love them, but we're also grieving their space, right? We're grieving the space that they filled that is no longer there. If, say, your husband or wife was always made you breakfast in the morning or had a cup of coffee ready for you, right? Or greeted you before you left or came home, right? That absence makes us grieve. And so for us, the absence of Leon, who is always the greeter for those that are new, that help set up the cameras, right? Or make sure that the speakers are on and loud enough, right? That absence of that doing will be missed.
Yeah, he didn't know where the things are. Like he would find out for past several years, like, oh, since we need something, schools, or like, he was okay, it's like, yeah, we'll still grab it. But that kind of like, all the thoughts, all the things, little things are, and it could be deeper, like, I mean, bank account deep in terms of your, like all the links to different places, the family links and all, which is all gone all of a sudden. And he might not pass to go down to his family or daughter or son. And especially like it's a situation like when family members or significant others are arguing and like it's not about time, it's because they are arguing so much because the people cannot pass the information to each other, and then they're gone, the other person doesn't have that. So that is really shocking.
I dislike sudden death. I'm okay with death, as long as I know it's happening or it's coming. Which, of course, is extremely unfair for me to say, because there's no guarantee of a slow, predictable death, right?
Yeah, we should teach more about like how to share what's new. I mean, we share a lot of things, but especially something needs to be shared, needs to be out like in the air to everybody and information. Yeah, because all these companies, the planning companies, the timber companies, all those like they are all money making businesses, but they don't sometimes trust and bills and all. But more we need like replicate the power of brain and the food design. Meditation and that is good because it's for self, like is not great, but for living other living beings to be behind the information and knowledge should be because otherwise they are so diluted version means they are there, but some is popped on information is shared, but not true the true brain or true knowledge or true wisdom whatever they had. It never comes back. That's why we have have generations after generations get so diluted, and we have better generations who are stronger, good people, and then get diluted and corrupt, morally. So we don't know what's right and wrong.
Do we ever? Right? Yeah. Well, it is what it is, right?
I'm assuming we can read it,
Correct. Right. Exactly. The Buddha grieved as well, right? He grieved when his father passed. His mother unfortunately passed during childbirth, so he never got to grieve his mother. But when his father died, and his father died after he became a Buddha, he grieved from him as well. But that's just showcasing that the Buddha was human like the rest of us. Right? He wasn't beyond or exempt from feeling sad. But the difference is that he understood that sadness, right? He understood the impermanence of life. He knew that this is just part of the equation, right? And to acknowledge the sadness, acknowledge the loss, but not to cling to it, not to hold on to it, because that sadness itself will also disappear eventually, right? Maybe it take a few minutes, a few days, a few weeks, months, years maybe, but eventually it too will pass. And having that understanding as early as possible will allow you to suffer the least amount of suffering.
and maybe that suffering can help you on your path if you have some kind of understanding, perhaps push you further to that awakening.
Exactly. We cannot become enlightened without suffering, right? We can't be happy without feeling suffering first, because we have to have a deep understanding and deep realization of suffering in order to know the opposite of suffering, right? If you've never suffered, then you don't actually have true happiness either, right? You can't be fully happy without ever feeling unhappy. Otherwise, if unhappiness never existed, then happiness itself doesn't exist, right? Because there has to be an opposite. There has to be happiness, unhappiness, suffering and non-suffering, right? Right and wrong, good or bad, etc., etc. But if there's no one, then the other doesn't exist. And so in order to be happy, we have to know unhappiness. In order to know liberation, we have to know suffering. Not just passively, not just intellectually, but a deep realization of what this means, of what this is, and how it affects our life, our livelihood, our practice, and our path. Good question. I mean, last minute, with less than 2 minutes. Okay then, and please join me in invoking Buddha's name 3 times. We'll transcend the merit and go to chanting. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Any positive karmic action we have accumulated here today, we wish to transfer the merit to all sentient beings and wish them full enlightenment. No, wish I can let you know. Please go to page 161.
BC on 2 days ago, at the age of 73. You depart on May the 18th, 2026, at the age of 73. We are here today to sincere prayer, to treat you up and invoke Amitabha Buddha's name, so that you may be reborn in this land of ultimate bliss, free of suffering, and filled with lasting happiness. Please do not be attached to your family, and you have to leave them behind. Rest assured that I will be well. They too will chant Amitabha to reach the poor land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. And I think well.
Speech and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend all anxiety. Listen, listen, this wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. Gratitude we offer this incense to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting our careful efforts, our wholehearted mindfulness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Incense in the censer now is burning, all the Dharma realm in every place, auspicious clouds appearing, our sincere intention thus fulfilling, as all Buddhas now show their perfect body homage to the incense cloud canopy, Bodhisattva and great Bodhisattva. It's to the eternally abiding Buddhas, the supreme Dharma, and sagely Sangha throughout the Dharma realm and the realm of empty space, and 3 periods of time. to the fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha Maitreya, honored future Buddha Manjushri, great wisdom, Bodhisattva, universal great conduct, Bodhisattva, all dharma guarding Deva Bodhisattva, and the glorious mountain assembly of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. To Amitabha Buddha in the land of ultimate bliss, Avalokiteshvara, great compassion, Bodhisattva, great strength, Bodhisattva, earth store, great vow, Bodhisattva, and the assembly of great pure sea-lying Bodhisattva. Sori Sori Maha Sori So Sori Swaha Om Sori Sori Maha Sori So Sori Swaha Om Sori Sori Maha Sori So Sori Swaha. O great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo, great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Namo, great compassionate Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Ratnatrayaya Namo Avalokiteshvaraya Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Om Sarvaravaya Sodanadasya Namaskritva Himamarya Avalokiteshvara Uktarehi Shina Shina Asham Prashari Visha Vishvam Prashaya Holo Holo Mara Holo Holo He Sara Sara Siri Siri Soro Soro Bodhiya Bodhiya Bodhaya Bodhaya Maitreya Narakinde Rishanina Vayamana Swaha Siddhaya Swaha Mahasiddhaya Swaha Siddha Yogeshwaraya Swaha Narakinde Swaha Maranara Swaha Sira Simha Mokhaya Swaha Sarva Mahasiddhaya Swaha Chakra Siddhaya Swaha Padma Kasaya Swaha Narakindi Vagalaya Swaha Mavadi Sankaraya Swaha Namo Ratna Trayaya Namo Arya Lokiteshvaraya Swaha Om Siddhyanto Mantrapadaya Swaha. Body is bringing morning light and concentration. My heart is at peace. A half smile is born on my lips. This is a new day and I vow to go through it in mindfulness. The sun of wisdom has risen, shining in every direction. Noble Sangha diligently bring your mind into meditation. Namo Shakyamuni Bodhaya. Namo Shakyamuni Bodhaya. Namo Shakyamuni Bodhaya. All my past created negative karma, all by beginningless greed, anger, and delusion from my body, speech, and mind. Now before the Buddha I repent. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Namo Samanta Bhadra Bodhisattva. Unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in sub-millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Namo Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the vast assembly of the lotus pool. Pronounces the Sutra of Amitabha Buddha. Thus I have heard at one time the Buddha dwelt Ashravasi in the Jeta Grove in the garden Shuddhipantak Nanda Ananda Rahula Gavampati Pindola Bharadvaja Karudayan Mahakafina Vakula Anirudh and others such as these, all great disciples, together with all the Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Dharma Prince Manjushri Ajita Bodhisattva, Gandhasan Bodhisattva, Nityodukta Bodhisattva, and others such as these, all great Bodhisattvas, and together with Shakra, chief among gods, and the numberless great multitudes from all the heavens. At the time the Buddha told the elder Shariputra, from here through hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddha lands to the west, there is a world called ultimate bliss. In this land a Buddha called Amitabha right now teaches the Dharma. Shariputra, for what reason is this land called ultimate bliss? All living beings of this land endure none of the suffer, but enjoy every bliss. Therefore it is called ultimate bliss. Moreover, Shariputra, this land of ultimate bliss is everywhere surrounded by 7 tiers of railing, 7 layers of netting, and 7 rows of trees, all formed from the 4 treasures, and for this reason named. Moreover, Shariputra, this land of ultimate bliss has pools of the 7 jewels filled with the waters of a meritorious virtues. The bottom of each pool is pure, spread over with goldens. On the 4 sides are stairs of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and crystal. Above are raised pavilions adorned with gold, silver, lapis lazuli, crystal, mother of pearl, red pearls, and carnelian. In the pools are lotuses as large as carriage wheels, green colored of green light, yellow colored of yellow, red colored of red light, white colored of white light, subtly, wonderfully fragrant and pure. Shariputra, station of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Moreover, Shariputra, in the Buddha land there is always heavenly music, and the ground is yellow gold. In the 6 periods of the day and night, a heavenly rain of mandarava flowers falls in throughout morning. Each living being of that land with sacks full of the myriads of wonderful flowers makes offerings to the hundreds of thousands of millions of Buddhas of the other directions. At mealtime they return to their home. Having eaten, they stroll around Shariputra. The realization of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Moreover, Shariputra, always rare and wonderful, varied colored birds, white cranes, peacocks, parrots, and egrets, calavincas, and 2-headed birds. In the 6 periods of the day and night, the flocks of birds sing forth harmonious and elegant sounds. They're clear and joyful, proclaim the 5 roots, the 5 powers, the 7 bodhi shares, the 8 sagely way shares, and dharma such as these. When living beings of this land hear these sounds, they are all together mindful of the Buddha, mindful of the Dharma, and mindful of the Sangha. Shariputra, do not say that these birds are born as retribution, karmic offenses. For what reason? In this Buddha land there are no 3 evil ways of rebirth. Shariputra, in this Buddha land not even the names of the 3 evil ways exist. How much less their actuality, desiring that the sound be widely proclaimed. Amitabha Buddha by transformation made this multitude of birds. Shariputra, Buddha land, when the soft wind blows, the rows of jewel trees and jewel nets are subtle and wonderful sounds, like 100,000 kinds of music played at the same time. All those who hear these sounds naturally bring forth in their hearts mindfulness of the Buddha, mindfulness of the Dharma, and mindfulness of the Sangha. Shariputra, the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Shariputra, what do you think? Why is this Buddha called Amitabha? Shariputra, the brilliance of the Buddha's light is measureless, illumining the lands of the 10 directions, freeware without obstruction. For this reason he is called Amitabha. Moreover, Shariputra, the life of the Buddha and that of his people extends for measureless, limitless asamkhaya kalpas. For this reason he is Amitabha and Shariputra, since Amitabha realized Buddhahood, 10 kalpas have passed. Moreover, Shariputra, the Buddha has measureless, limitless sound hearer disciples, all arhats, their number incalculable. Thus also is the Bodhisattva Shariputra, the realization of the land of ultimate bliss is thus meritoriously adorned. Moreover, Shariputra's living beings born in the land of the ultimate bliss are all in the stage of non-regression. Among them are many who in this very life will dwell in Buddhahood. Their number is extremely many, it is incalculable and only and measureless, limitless. Kamya kalpas could it be spoken, Shariputra, those living beings who here should bow. I wish to be born in that land, and why those who thus attain are all superior and good people, all gathered together in one place. Shariputra, one cannot have few good roots, blessings, virtues, and casual connections to attain birth in that Putra. If there is a good man or a good woman who hears spoken Amitabha and holds a name, whether for 1 day, 2 days, 3, 4, 5 days, 6 days, as long as 7 days, with one heart unconfused, when this person of light before him will appear Amitabha in all the assembly of holy ones. When the end comes, his heart is without inversion. In Amitabha's land of ultimate bliss he will attain rebirth. Shariputra, because I see this benefit, I speak these words. If living beings hear this spoken, they should make the vow, I will be born in that land. Shariputra, as I now praise the inconceivable benefit from the merit and virtue of Amitabha, thus in the east are also Akshobhya Buddha, Sumaru appearance Buddha, grace Sumaru Buddha, Sumaru light Buddha, wonderful son Buddha, all Buddha such as these numberless. She stands in his own land, each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence conceivable merit and virtue of the Sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, in the southern world are Sun, Moon, Lamp Buddha, well-known light Buddha, great blazing shoulders Buddha, Sumaru lamp Buddha, measureless figure Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless, as Genji sends in his own land, each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the conceivable merit and virtue of the Sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, world are measureless, light Buddha, measureless appearance Buddha, measureless curtain Buddha, great light Buddha, great brightness Buddha, jeweled appearance Buddha, pure light Buddha, all Buddha such as these numberless, as Genji sends in his own land forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of the Sutra of the mindful one, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, in the northern world are blazing shoulders Buddha, most victorious sound Buddha, hard to injure Buddha, sunbirth Buddha, and brightness Buddha, all Buddhas such as these numberless, as Genji sends in his own land, each brings forth the appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words. All you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit Sutra of the mindful one, sincere and actual words all you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue of the Sutra of the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shadiput, and the world above are pure sound Buddha, king of stars Buddha, fragrant shoulders Buddha, varied color, jewels and flower, adornment body Buddha, Saladri king Buddha, jewel flower, virtue Buddha, vision of all meaning Buddha, such as Mount Sumeru Buddha, all Buddha, such as these numberless as Ganges sends in his own land, each brings forth appearance of a vast and long tongue everywhere, covering the 3,000 great thousand worlds, and speaks the sincere and actual words all you living beings should believe, praise, and hold in reverence the inconceivable merit and virtue Sutra of the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protective. Shariputra, what do you think? Why is it called Sutra of the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protective? Shariputra, if a good man or good woman hears the sutra and holds to it and hears the names of all these Buddhas, this good man or woman will be the Mindful One, of whom all Buddhas are protected, and will irreversibly attain to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Shariputra, all of you should believe and accept my words and those which all Buddhas speak. Shariputra, people who have already made the vow, who now make the vow, or who are about to make the vow, I desire to be born in Amitabha's land. These people, whether born in the past, now being born, or to be born in the future, will irreversibly attain to Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, Shariputra, all good men and good women, if they are among those who have faith, should make the vow, I will be born in that land. Shariputra, just as I now praise the inconceivable merit and virtue of all Buddhas, all those Buddhas equally praise my inconceivable merit and virtue, saying these words, Shakyamuni Buddha can complete extremely rare the good deeds in the Sahalan, in the evil time of the 5 impurities, in the midst of the Kalpa impurity, the view impurity, the affliction impurity, the living beings impurity, and the life impurity, he can attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. And for the sake of living beings, speak this dharma. Whole world is hard to believe. Shariputra, you should know that I, in the evil time of the 5 impurities, practice these difficult deeds, attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. And for dharma difficult to believe, extremely difficult, after the Buddha spoke the sutra, Shariputra, and all the bhikshus, all the gods, men, and asuras, and others worlds, hearing what the Buddha has said, joyously welcomed, faithfully accepted, bowed, and withdrew. At the time the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, proclaimed the Sukhavati Vyuhadarani Namo Amitabhaya Tathagataya Tahamrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kita Kare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Tathagataya Taryata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Vikrante Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kita Kare Swaha Namo Amitabhaya Tathagataya Taryata Amrita Bhavi Amrita Siddham Bhavi Amrita Vikranta Gamini Gagana Kita Kare Swaha. May all the 4 kinds of beings reach the jeweled land, and the beings of all 3 realms be born from lotus. May all the myriad ghosts attain the threefold worthiness, and the countless sentient ones ascend the 10. Amitabha's body is the color of gold, the splendor of his hallmarks has no peer, the light of his brow shines around 100 worlds wide as the seas, are his eyes pure and clear, shining his brilliance by transformation, are countless bodhisattvas and infinite Buddhas Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Great Strength Bodhisattva, Namo Shiti Garbha Bodhisattva, Namo Shiti Garbha Bodhisattva, Namo Shiti Garbha Bodhisattva, Namo Great Pure Sea like Bodhisattvas, Namo Great Pure Sea like Bodhisattvas, Namo Great Pure Sea like Bodhisattvas. Heart of the Prajna Paramita, the Bodhisattva Avalokita, while moving in the discourse of Prajna Paramita, shed light on the five skandhas and found them equally empty. After this penetration, he overcame ill being. Listen, Shadiput, form is emptiness, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. The same is true with feelings, perception, mental formation, consciousness. Listen, Shadiputra, are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither immaculate, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore, in emptiness there is neither form nor feelings, no perceptions or mental formations, nor consciousness, no eye or ear or nose or tongue or body or mind, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of realms of elements, no interdependent origins and no extinction of them, no ill-being, no cause of ill-being, no end of ill-being, and no path, no understanding, no attainment, because there is no attainment. The Bodhisattvas grounded in Prajna Paramita find no obstacles. No obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas in the past, present, and future arrive at Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, one should perfect understanding is the highest mantra, the unequal mantra, the destroyer of ill-being, the incorruptible truth. The mantra Prajna Paramita should therefore be proclaimed. Gate Gate Paragat Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Swaha. Namo Sarva Tathagata Padokiteyum Sambara Sambara Hom. Namo Sarva Tathagata Padokiteyum Sambara Sambara Hom. Namo Sarva Tathagata Keteyum Sambara Sambara Hom. Namo Soropaya Tathagata Yataryata Hom. Soro Soro Prasoro Prasoro Swaha. Namo Soropaya Tathagata Yataryata Hom. Soro Soro Prasoro Prasoro Swaha. Namo Tathagata Yataryata Hom. Soro Soro Prasoro Prasoro Swaha. Om Gagana Sambhava Vajra Hom. Om Gagana Sambhava Vajra Hom. Om Gagana Sambhava Vajra Hom. May these meritorious virtues adorn the Buddha's pure land, repaying for kinds of kindness above and aiding those suffering in the past below. May those who see and hear of this all bring forth the resolve for both. And when this retribution body is over, be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Taba Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha.
Yes, actually,
Take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way. In this life I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and of love. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. In the refuge of Buddha, I clearly see the path of light and beauty in the world. Dwelling in the refuge of Dharma, I learn to open many doors on the path of transformation. Dwelling the refuge of Sangha, shining light thus supports me, keeping my practice free of obstruction. Refuge in the Buddha, in myself I aspire to help all people recognize their own awakened nature, realizing the mind of love, taking refuge in the Dharma. In myself I aspire to help all people master the ways of practice and walk together on the path of liberation, taking refuge in the Sangha. In myself I aspire to help all people build fourfold communities to embrace all beings and support their transformation. Citing the sutras, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings to give guidance and support along the path.